fast. Jordan, I like the hand signals.
Thank you.
Foolz! It is episode 41, the second episode of the week.
Exciting. Very exciting.
It is exciting because this is our week 8 of the NFL 2024-5 season. And today we are excited to go over a week 8 preview. We're just going to get right into it. Starting off with Thursday Night Football, we have the Minnesota Vikings coming off against a loss from the Detroit Lions against the Los Angeles Rams coming off a win against the Raiders. From the Minnesota side, I think we all agree Sam Darnold is going to be a start. The Vikings defense in this matchup does look juicy. Even if Cooper Kupp does come back, if he is back, I think you're going to start him. From the Rams side, you're also going to start Kyren Williams. But the two people in this matchup these are guys that you are going to set and forget. Never worry about them in your lineup. Maybe to switch between the lock and the flex, depending on the time of their schedule. But it is Kyren Williams and Justin Jefferson. I mean, really, these two guys are set it and forget it. From the flex side, you can start looking at Jordan Addison from a flex perspective, and also TJ Hawkinson coming back, hopefully in week 8 from his injury last season. This is just a guy who, you drafted him in those redrafts where you did, knowing you were going to stash him away. It's almost time. On the bench side, God, it's really sad to say, but Matt Stafford is a sit. He is not doing anything, especially without Puka, especially without Cooper Kupp. Maybe if Kupp comes back, we'll see some of that old Stafford shine, but right now I just don't have faith.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Would you play Stafford if Kupp comes back this week? He's coming back on Thursday. That's what all the reports are saying.
Stafford gets sacked every other play. I know.
That's the hard part. I tend to agree. I tend to agree. I just wanted to put the question out there because I think we would all say that the talent is there for Stafford over Darnold, but Darnold is a better fantasy quarterback. That is absolutely true. But neither of them touch even closely what the two fantasy quarterbacks are for the next game, and that's Philadelphia versus Cincinnati. I mean, you have two top quarterbacks in this one with Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. I love both of those, and I'm going to set it and forget it for both of them. It doesn't matter who the weeks are. As far as the Philadelphia side, you're also going to play A.J. Brown, and I think you're going to still want to play Devonta Smith, but I think that's because it's going to be a shootout. I mean, both of these teams are going to be going back and forth because I don't think either defense is great. On the Cincinnati side of the ball, Chase, Burrow, Higgins, lock them in, start them, do whatever, because I think it's going to be, like I said, a total shootout.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's going to be a shootout. Like you said, everyone, the Burrow and Chase are definitely locks, man. They're for now and pretty much the rest of the season, I think.
Are you going to avoid Zach Moss or really are you going to avoid the running game?
I think
I think it's a difficult situation, but look, running backs are tight, right? We all know that. There's only so many running backs, especially in those deeper leagues where you have more than one or two flex positions. If you're in a 3-flex league, possibly a 3-flex with a super flex, you're going to probably end up starting both because you don't have both, but you have one, and you're going to start one hoping that either one has their breakout week.
I tend to agree. They're more of a flex option.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point to say that they're more of a flex option. I think that comes because they're together. Like, they just both seem to bring the same level of fantasy relevance. But, in terms of the next matchup, we have Baltimore versus Cleveland. So, talk about some more set it and forget it, guys. Same division. Lamar and Derrick Henry. Set it, forget it, don't overthink it. The other people, Mark Andrews seems to be on the rise. So he's really become much more fantasy relevant recently in terms of what's going on there. Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, there's flex category because they could have a great week. They could have 2 points. So
yeah, I was debating this I was talking to Mike about this earlier. I don't want to pick up Rashad Bateman on the waiver wires because he is most likely on your waiver wires, but there's been a lot of wide receiver injuries. I think I'm going to newsflash. I'm going after him on the waiver wires just because of all the injuries. And if you're getting shafted by injuries between Nico Collins, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, maybe we put him as a flex. I think you're right there.
I think you're onto something because quite frankly, he's getting 4 targets a game. That is not a lot, but it's not nothing. That is exactly what he gets. That's pretty much his ceiling and it's his floor. And if he catches it, he's catching for about 23 yards a catch. It's not a lot, but he's got a couple weeks over 3. Or I'm sorry, he's got a couple weeks over 10 points. Maybe worth a shot.
On Cleveland side of the ball, I don't really think you're playing anybody. Their defense was supposed to be decent coming into the season. You're definitely not playing them this week. You maybe are playing Chubb because he seems to be, even off of injury, the best player on that offense.
I have to throw out 2 names here. I'm really intrigued by both Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman. I think both of them are potential sleepers just because they're going to be forced into a pass catching role here, especially against a high octane Baltimore offense.
Yeah, I think Tillman is another one of those waiver wire guys where I'm looking to, especially if Jameson Winston is throwing the ball. He might make these wide receivers relevant. So
I agree.
I'm with you there. Going into Tennessee versus the Detroit Lions, I don't know about you guys, but I think this is going to be a blowout, especially because on the Tennessee side, the only person you are starting is Tony Pollard going up against a solid run defense. I wouldn't even be super happy about that matchup, honestly, because I think the Lions are absolutely going to dominate because they've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Monty, you've got Goff, Laporta, all of whom you are starting if you have them. There's not a single guy on this offense on the Detroit Lions that fantasy relevant options that I am not going to start in this matchup.
This kind of goes with what I was saying last podcast. It's so scary to me because I feel like Detroit, they're all players that you have to play, but you can't possibly have all of them hit. So you're going to have all these guys locked in your lineup, especially Sam Laporta now that Jameson Williams is out for a little bit. But I'm still only expecting 3 to hit, and I think it's going to be the running backs because I just don't think Tennessee has an offense.
I was just going to say it's going to be 3 out of the 4.
You're right. It's definitely it's going to be 3 out of the 4 there. What's interesting about this Lions offense too is that Dan Campbell and company, they like to switch their plan up. Like right after Jahmyr Gibbs has an awesome week, they could just purposely be like, okay, to the next week say, all right, that defense thought we were going to run with Gibbs and do what we did last week, but we're going to do the opposite.
I just want to ask the question here. You guys said 3 out of the 4. Who's the 4? Who are the 4? Because I'm counting
St.
5.
Brown, Gibbs, Monty, and Laporta.
Okay, so we're leaving out Goff.
Because you're going to play Goff. He's a quarterback. He benefits from all 4 of these guys.
I disagree because I think it's going to end up being a running back show. I think it's going to be a running back show. They're going to get it to an early lead. Tennessee's going to have no offense, and they're just going to kill the clock.
In a time period where there's a lot of quarterback injuries, and I believe I don't remember who's out this week, but Jared Goff has potential to definitely be very relevant this week. Easily top 12.
He has potential to be very relevant. If I'm going to choose one, I'm going to choose Goff. I'm going to choose Goff and Laporta to still be the duds here, but I think the other 3 are going to cook. I'm going to go into the next game now, just so we don't waste too much time here because we have so many games to go through for this week. But Indianapolis and Houston, I think this could be a very interesting game. I have not heard if JT has played yet, but if he's playing, you're locking him in on the Indianapolis side. Outside of him, you're pretty much starting nobody. I mean, Anthony Richardson, he's still playing, he's still throwing the ball, and therefore no one is catching it. And on the other side, you have Houston, who I don't care what happened last week. Houston is a great offense. They don't have Nico Collins. I understand that, but I think this might be the week that Diggs, Mixon, Stroud, and even Dell all cook. I think they're out to make a statement game. Last week was not our offense. We are much better than that, and this is our prove it game.
Yeah.
Good point. And moving on to the next matchup, we got Green Bay taking on Jacksonville. Who are you not starting from Green Bay? It's kind of a similar situation to what Mike brought up with Detroit. against a poor defense and just a game that you expect the Green Bay to win, you're definitely starting Jordan Love. He's been awesome. I think you got to start Jaden Reed even after his poor performance last week. If you got Jacobs, he's a lock. And I think it's safe to say that Tucker Kraft is pretty much a lock for the rest of the season. He's playing like a top 5 tight end. Watson and Wicks, Jacksonville's not great. They could be solid flexes this week. I don't know what to expect between Watson, Wicks, and Dobbs. What do you guys think on Green Bay's side?
I am higher on Dobbs than I think all of you. I would put Dobbs as the wide receiver 2 in this offense. And I would be straight up sitting Wicks and Watson.
I think I'm with
Dobbs
you there.
has
I would
a
agree.
Very high snap percentage. I know that. So it would not surprise me if he's the one who pops off. On the others, for the team they're playing, you've got Jacksonville. And really it's Brian Thomas Jr. and Tank Bigsby. I suppose maybe Evan Engram, then Christian Kirk in flex value.
I would definitely say Evan Engram.
Evan Engram is a lock. Ever since he got back, he's been a target machine. He's actually, he had 10 receptions and 10 targets the first game he came back, and then he had another 5 for 5. The only thing he hasn't done is get in the end zone yet.
You do hope he gets into the end zone. If you've got him, you're definitely starting him because tight end's been so thin this year. I think the main people I'm excited about on Jacksonville's side of the ball is Brian Thomas Jr. and Tank Bigsby. And at this point, if you have Trevor Lawrence, I don't even think he should be rostered.
Ooh, that's a hot take.
No, I think there's a lot better options there. Unless your waivers are really tight, I'm with you, Jordan.
Dude,
I don't trust him.
There's better
options. He's QB 16 right now. He's actually a higher rated fantasy quarterback than Sam Darnold.
I still don't trust him.
In total points?
In quarterback ranking right now, he is higher than Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold had his bye week and Trevor Lawrence did not. But right now he has more points than Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
but I don't trust him.
What's their average?
Average per game? I do not have that on my little stat right here. I'm sorry. But
I just think you don't trust him yet, especially against this Packers defense, especially in this matchup.
Man.
I would still start Trevor Lawrence over Patrick Mahomes.
In terms of average, his average is 15. He is 22nd in average this year. Sam Darnold is 17.3, 15th.
Yeah.
That's not that different.
We could talk about that matchup forever, but we're going to move on to the Arizona Cardinals versus the Miami Dolphins. Starting out from the Arizona Cardinals side, you're going to start most of them. Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., McBride, Connor, those guys are all starts this week. I would even consider against this Miami defense, you could look at Mike Wilson if you're short on wide receivers. On the Miami side, yeah, that's about it. I think you're flexing Devon Achane. If Raheem Mostert's healthy, you could flex him because their running backs are going to actually be in the game this week, especially those pass catching backs, which they are both. Tyreek Hill, if you haven't benched him already, I think this is the moment where you start thinking about it because he is not doing anything. He had 2 points. I'm going to round up. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. 2 points last week against the Colts defense. You're benching him. You're benching.
Listen, at this point, if you haven't benched Tyreek Hill yet, then you're not even going for the playoffs, so you're not setting your lineup. So, just is what it is.
Even with Tua, if Tua plays this week.
That's what I wanted to get to, though. Tua's expected to come back in week 8. I don't trust that, but if he does, you're still not playing him? I would have to.
Oh, if Tua's back, I'm playing him, but I just think it's a very unlikely world that I don't even think Tua should be allowed to play.
I think that is a decision that he has to make for himself. But, okay, so we are on the same page. If Tua's back, you're playing Tyreek. Waddle is still questionable, but outside of that, honestly, if Tua comes back, the offense now becomes alive again, and you can maybe think about things. But moving on to a game where I really don't know if I'm excited for the offenses or not. You got the New York Jets versus New England Patriots. I really think that the New York Jets are going to try and just put up whomping on the New England Patriots. I'm just really afraid that they can't. Like the Jets have been they've just proven to be the Jets. Like they've just proven to just be the Jets that we all know. They have stars on this team that just can't get the job done. I think they're gonna win. I think it's gonna be a blowout, but like I'm not confidently starting anybody, but I am starting Devontae Adams, starting Garrett Wilson. I'm starting Breece Hall. I'm starting Aaron Rodgers in my league because I think they're gonna cook, but I don't do it confidently. On the other side of the ball, though, it's Stevenson for me. I don't trust. Oh, and May. I like May, but
I don't like May in this matchup.
I don't like May in this matchup, but he gets it done with his legs too, which is surprising. I didn't expect that.
All right, so pop Quizno for you. Drake May or Dak Prescott?
Ooh, Dak Prescott. I would still say Dak Prescott, even against San Francisco.
Jordan?
That's really tough.
Drake May or Sam Darnold?
Oh, why do you do this to me?
I'm going with
Sam
Drake
Darnold.
May over in the first one. You said Dak Prescott. Man, that's a tough one, though. Moving on to the next matchup, we've got Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. Now, on Atlanta's side of the ball, I was hoping Kirk Cousins by this point in the season would click a little more and be more fantasy relevant, at least top 15. He has not panned out great, but he's playing good enough for Drake London and Darnell Mooney to be relevant, which is awesome. Specifically Drake London. Then Bijan, he's also a starter. Now, on Tampa Bay's side of the ball, you've got Baker, who, I mean, he's number 2 QB on the season. You really want to start him if you've got him, but Godwin's out for the season.
But can you?
And Mike Evans could be out 3 to 4 weeks.
He is. They're expecting him not to come back until after the bye week.
So he's pretty much, left in no man's land without his 2-star receivers. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't start Baker this week.
You're really gonna have to see those rookie wide receivers step up to the plate. You've got McMillan, you've got Shepard. Palmer, Sterling Shepard, the veteran. You're really gonna need them to step up, as well as your RBs. Right? They're gonna be running Rashad White a lot as probably as a pass catcher, and Bucky Irving as a pass catcher, putting that Chris Tucker role or Sean Tucker right in that back to really mound through the defense.
We are not in the NFL. We are not NFL analysts, so we are fantasy analysts. So I gotta try and make the best of this situation, right? Who do these injuries benefit the most, do you think?
The running
wide receivers? Do you think it's Rashad White? Or do you think it's Cade Otton?
Yes.
I agree. I think it's questionable. I think Rashad White is probably the one who's going to do it. I think Cade Otton is very close, and I could easily see him being the biggest beneficiary.
Yeah, I agree. So we got through the Bucks. Moving on to the New Orleans Saints versus the Los Angeles Chargers. On the Saints side, you're always playing Alvin Kamara. He is still number 2 on the season, I believe, in half PPR formats. You are always playing him. Other than that, no one. I don't trust anyone, especially against the Chargers, who've shown they had a good defense, especially going up against Arizona last week. Look, the wide receivers are short, right? Chris Olave, if he's back, you might throw him in your lineup, but there's so much uncertainty with this quarterback room. Maybe if they got bench Rattler, I might actually value these wide receivers more. But right now, I don't really trust anyone going in. From the Chargers side, I would definitely start J.K. Dobbins. We might talk about it this week, Mike. He only got 8.9 points last week. I just want to recap that from a little bit dispute we had on last episode. And you're also, I believe you're still going to start Ladd McConkey. He has not shaped up to be the man that I expected him to be, but I think he still has a lot of bandwidth to go with Justin Herbert on the helm. Speaking of Justin Herbert, I think this might be bench category for me for Justin Herbert. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to see a ton of the running back work in this matchup, but I don't know if you guys would start Herbert or not.
Justin Herbert's the number 25 quarterback on the season. He is not getting any better until they start getting some better receivers. I would not be playing him no matter what. And if you are playing him, then you really need to update your roster.
But he did have 349 passing yards against Arizona.
I know.
He did not perform bad.
He had a great game. Somehow did not get in the end zone in any of it.
This is his highest attempt game of the entire season so far, with 39 attempts, 27 completions, both season highs and yardage season highs for Justin Herbert. Is this a thing to come?
I don't believe so. I think Arizona, like I said last podcast, they were stacking the box. It seemed like they had an extra guy really starting to try and attack that run because they know that the Chargers are a rushing offense. So it's good. Kudos to the Chargers for having the capability of being a dual threat like that, because if they take away their main weapons of rushing, they still have one of the best quarterbacks behind the line. But I don't think it's going to be a thing to come.
Okay.
That's me. Maybe I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll be happily wrong, because I think some of those throws will go to J.K. Dobbins. But that'll be my own thing. So moving on to the next game, Buffalo versus Seattle. We got basically a whole. Don't give me that look. Don't give me that look.
We both gave you that look.
Yeah,
I know,
double trouble.
I'm only looking at Tyler.
Thanks.
So you got some starters here that you are absolutely locking in. You got Josh Allen, Cooper. I think Amari Cooper might actually be a lock-in this week after learning that playbook. Then James Cook. I love the kid. I am a little worried about Ray Davis cooking into these touches, but I do think he's going to still be a locked-in start. Guys who you can take a look at, I'm not playing him, but I am monitoring Keon Coleman. If Keon Coleman has another good game with Cooper in the lineup, I think it's going to be something to stick. Same with Shakir and same with Kincaid. All three of them, I want to see who's going to break out this week.
I think Cooper lowers Shakir's value, because I feel like if you're Josh Allen, your first look is going to be Amari Cooper. Your second look is most likely going to be Dalton Kincaid. Your third look, I feel like that third look is now going to Keon Coleman, leaving Shakir with that fourth look. So I
agree with you.
I think it lowers.
disagree.
I dropped him. I dropped
disagree.
Shakir.
I think Shakir is a player with a secure floor. I think Shakir is his safety net. I think he recognizes that Shakir has one of the best catch percentages in the league. And I think that, like, what we expected Kincaid to be, his safety net of these short passes of getting it done, is going to be Shakir. I think Kincaid might be the odd man out.
I am maybe admittedly hoping not, because I have Kincaid in a couple leagues, but I do think that Kincaid is going to end up being it. And I think Shakir having one of the highest catch percentages honestly means nothing when the yards are literally zero. If you're throwing it laterally behind the line, it does. Okay, you should catch everything. That's how Rachaad White got so many catches. But I mean, we'll see.
But that's not all he gets. That's not all Shakir does. I do think that Josh Allen values like, hey, I need to get some yards here, even if it's 5-6 yards. Shakir's got great hands. I know I can throw it to him, and I know he's going to get it.
It's entirely possible, and that's why I'm saying that these three, I'm very interested to see what happens with Cooper arriving. I think all three, it will be interesting, and I think it's going to be really relevant. But I got to move on to the other side of the ball. So Seattle, I actually just saw in one of our leagues, Geno Smith hit the waiver wire. He's a quarterback 7 on the season. I was amazed.
Wow.
Yeah, totally wild. But he's absolutely not a drop. Absolutely not a drop. Do not do that.
Don't worry about it.
Go pick him up if he happens to be on your waiver wire, along with DK. I do play DK very hesitantly because he is coming back from that injury. Make sure he's playing. But if he's playing, he is the number one target. He goes for the deep ball. He's your best bet. JSN and Lockett, they instantly go to plays on a flex level, on a medium confidence level. If DK's out, if they're not out, honestly, they still probably are at this point. Geno just loves throwing the ball.
Yeah.
And Walker, I mean, they got to say, like, Walker's the only other lock-in.
Yep.
Moving on to the next matchup, we got Carolina versus Denver. This is going to be possibly an offensive dud. Dud of the week. Just, on Carolina's side of the ball, start Chuba. Set it and forget it. Other than him, consider Deontay Johnson if you don't have a better flex option. No one else needs to be mentioned.
Nope.
Denver side of the ball, the most set it and forget it is partially because of their matchup, but partially just because they're freaking awesome. Denver Broncos defense, they have been playing lights out this season. They scored like 21 fantasy points last week against the Saints. Depending on your
More.
league, it was up to 30. So
Yeah, I had almost 30.
yeah, I had 30 in one league. And the other people that I think are really relevant are going to be Bo Nix, who he seems to be clicking as the season continues. He puts up more and more consistently high teens, low 20s weeks. And then are we starting Javonte? Do we trust
Yes.
him?
In
Is
this
it the
matchup,
matchup,
yes.
or do we think things clicked?
This is
both.
the matchup.
I think
It's a matchup. It's a matchup to see if it's going to click. What do you do about Sutton?
I think you start him. I think he's a potentially solid flex option. He's not more than that, though.
Yeah, I would agree.
I would agree with that.
The only thing I would say is this might be a good wide receiver matchup going into it. So you might see Cortland Sutton produce. You might see guys like Troy Franklin. I'm high on Devon Vele, but I'm not going to start him.
Would you start Deontay Johnson or Cortland Sutton in the flex?
Cortland Sutton.
Oh. Over Deontay Johnson?
Yeah. Against the Broncos? Yes.
Is Surtain playing? I don't think so.
I don't care.
Okay, that's fair. I'm gonna roll with Deontay.
All right. Moving on to our next matchup, we have the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Whoop. This is my upset of the week. I gotta root for my Raiders. They upset the Ravens in week 2. I think they're gonna finally put that L in Kelsey. There you go. I got it. And they are going to take the lead, and I think they're going to win by 3 points, calling it now. But from the Kansas City side, you are starting Travis Kelce and Kareem Hunt. Both have been pretty consistently these past couple of weeks. Las Vegas, you are definitely setting Brock Bowers, the potential tight end 1 on the season. You are definitely running with him, especially because he is a favorite read of Gardner Minshew. You're also, from a flex standpoint, you are considering flexing Xavier Worthy just because of the matchup. I think this might even be a very confident flex, Xavier Worthy. On the less confident side, we've got Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker. Both, I am worried about this Kansas City defense in this matchup. But again, with injuries, with everyone out, with those flex spots open, and my prediction on your side, you can flex Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker if you really want.
Oh God, I don't know if I like those. I really don't. I don't like the confidence in Worthy, to be honest.
It's
my upset. I gotta follow.
You gotta get points for somebody. That's what it is.
Yep.
This is your upset of the week pick.
Yeah. Were you not here for the past 2 minutes?
He spaced out. It's okay.
That's how long it took me to just fully comprehend how ridiculous this is.
I disagree, but that probably means you'll be right. Anyway, moving on. If it's anything like my Duel of the Fools picks, you'll be right.
Mike, disagree with my fantasy team. I dare you.
No, I love your fantasy team.
Dang it.
Almost as much as I love the Chicago Bears defense, which is pretty much the only thing I'm locking in right now against Washington. Even though Washington is a fantastic offense, we don't know if Jaden Daniels is playing. And if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, then I really don't know what this offense is going to look like. I know Marcus Mariota had a great game last week, but against the Chicago Bears defense, I think it's Chicago and Denver. Those are the two best defenses in the league. They are superstars, and they just basically shut down everybody. So Chicago, I'm being very careful here. I'm going to end up saying DJ Moore, who you're obviously starting. And after that, it's the defense, and that's really it. I think Swift has been great. Caleb's shown flashes. But Washington is possibly exposed right now. And like I said, if Jaden's in, you're starting him, and then all of a sudden it's a different story. Then all of a sudden this becomes a really good matchup. Number 1 versus number 2 picks. Great storyline. The NFL moved the time for this game. It was supposed to be a 1 o'clock game. They made it 4:25. Excited for the game, like I said, but I don't know. I think it might be a dud.
Yep.
Man. Yeah, it could be good, it could be bad. But moving on to the Sunday night matchup, we got a matchup that could be pretty freaking good. We got Dallas taking on San Francisco. Now, CD Lamb, I think he's a lock. Set it and forget it, just because of how freaking good he can be. You maybe expected better things from him, but he's still pretty freaking good. Jake Ferguson, I think, is also, I think he has potential this week. Could be good, just because tight ends are so thin this season, and he's been decent. Now, Dak has not been what you probably hoped him to, and probably won't do great against a very good San Francisco 49ers defense. I would look elsewhere. I would consider starting people like Jared Goff and Bo Nix over Dak this week. And then,
Yeah.
man, so Mike, you mentioned during Cincinnati, like we were talking about Zach Moss, Chase Brown. Rico Dowdle kind of fits that category for me too.
He does fit in that category. I agree with that. He's right in that like running back 2, running back 3. Like you don't really know if you want to play him or not.
Like you may play him, but you're not excited about it. I think he's just kind of like a Band-Aid on a position that's been filled with injuries.
This Sunday night football game is supposed to be so much more. This is supposed to be a Dallas Cowboys versus San Francisco like powerhouse game. 2 powerhouses going at it.
Yeah,
It's a 3-3 versus 3-4 game. This is actually kind of sad, but it's going to really make or break both one of these teams' seasons.
And on San Francisco side of the ball, I think Kittle easily setting it and forget it at this point. Debo,
Tight end 1 on the season, you have to.
Yeah, I think Jordan. Debo, if he does Thursday and Friday full practice, no pneumonia issues, no like lingering health issues, I think you gotta start him with Ayuk out.
Yeah.
Under those circumstances, yes, I'm very worried about playing him this week.
I'm not excited. It's very unconfident, but he could go off.
He could, but he also has fluid in his lungs right now.
Yeah. In the hospital. But speaking of really, really exciting matchups for a primetime game, I just absolutely can't wait for the New York Giants to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be an exciting matchup of absolutely nothing. On the Giants side, yes, you're starting Malik Neighbors. Pittsburgh has a great defense. You would also start the defense. I don't have any confidence in any of the players that I'm starting. Except for except for George Pickens. I think this is a lock for George Pickens. Even though the Giants have shown their defense is relevant, I think this is also a great time that you could consider starting Russell Wilson. And maybe from the Giants side, Tyrone Tracy continues to get the work. Again, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is what worries me in this matchup. So not feeling confident with any of these guys.
I totally agree with that. I think I'm even scared to start Malik Neighbors, even though I think he's a superstar and I think he can still put up superstar numbers. This defense is going to be all over Daniel Jones, and I'm afraid he's not even going to have the time to get the ball to Malik Neighbors.
Right. But that is our Week 8 preview. And now, moving on to Duel of the Fools, going into Week 8. Jordan, take it away.
Give me a lifeline.
Right.
Just there we go.
You need a lot more than that.
All right. So we've got in the quarterback matchup, Kirk Cousins, whose opponent is Tampa Bay Buccaneers, taking on Aaron Rodgers, who's taking on a poor New England defense. Tyler, who do you think is going to win?
I'm the oddball out, but I'm going with Kirk Cousins. I think the Bucs are going to turn over the ball with 0 weapons, and that's going to give Kirk a lot of time to throw.
Ooh.
I
just think the Bucs can't put up points. So
exactly.
They're just going to hand it off, and Bijan's just going to have a good day.
I think Bijan's going to have a great day. This is interesting because this is the game where Kirk Cousins had 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, but I don't think it's going to be a repeat effort. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to end up doing better this week.
We will see. Running back matchup number 1, we have Javonte Williams, whose opponent is a poor Carolina's defense. And then you have DeAndre Swift taking on Washington Commanders. Mike, who do you have in this matchup?
I stuck with DeAndre Swift. I was against him in previous weeks. I think he's the better player overall, so I'm going to go with the better player.
Yep, and I also agree. I think that the Broncos are going to run house with Carolina, and they're going to be cycling through their 3 running backs instead of focusing on Javonte.
Man, I really don't like it, but I had to pick Javonte Williams this week. And it's not because I think he's a stud and this is his breakout week where everything clicks with his new quarterback. It's the matchup. Carolina's been so bad against running backs. I mean, how do I not pick this guy? But running back matchup number 2, you've got Najee Harris going up against New York Giants defense and Jordan Mason taking on Dallas.
I went with Jordan Mason, and I don't like it. It's not my favorite pick, but I don't believe in this Dallas defense, so I'm going Jordan Mason. They got no other weapons. They can't do anything else.
It's tough. I feel the same. I think that Giants defensive line is just a little bit better. It's the only good part of the Giants organization right now. The defense D line is freaking incredible. I just think they're going to stuff Najee Harris a little more than Dallas can stuff Jordan Mason.
I agree with your logic, but I just think that there's going to be no offensive side of the ball for basically having for the Giants. So I think they're going to just keep stuffing and keep stuffing and keep stuffing, and Najee's going to have like 30 carries this week, and it's going to be bad.
Mike, what's your favorite food?
Stuffing.
RB matchup number 3, we got Devon A. Chan, who's playing Arizona, who's not been another poor defense, and Jahmyr Gibbs going up against Tennessee. Personally, I struggle to vote against Jahmyr Gibbs after he really clicked last week, and I don't really trust Tennessee's defense. They've had their ups and downs. They're definitely better than their offense, but I think Gibbs is going to cook.
I agree. I picked Gibbs.
You have
Mike?
to pick Gibbs. He's a lion. I chose Devon Achane pretty much because I feel he might have a little bit of a burst that Jahmyr Gibbs might not have. And I'm really putting a lot of faith in the fact that Tua is going to be back. And if Tua is not back, then I'll take the L. But I'm hoping he's back for this matchup.
Man. Well, wide receiver matchup number 1, we got Brian Thomas Jr., whose opponent is Green Bay, taking on Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors, whose opponent is Pittsburgh. I hated to do this. I went Brian Thomas Jr.
I did as well.
I just think he's a stud. I think Green Bay's going to make Jacksonville throw it. I think Christian Kirk is not good. And it's going to be Evan Engram and Brian Thomas.
I need to catch up to you guys in the rankings, so I'm just kind of hoping that that you guys are wrong, and I chose Malik Neighbors.
I figured you were doing that.
Fall farther behind, which is also acceptable. Matchup number 2 among the wide receivers, we get Stephon Diggs taking on Indianapolis Colts, and T. Higgins taking on Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I personally, this one was tough. I went with Stephon Diggs. It was hard to go against T. Higgins, so who'd you guys pick?
Yeah, I went with T. Higgins. I don't like it. I've never been a T. Higgins fan, but I went with him against this matchup.
I am a T. Higgins fan. The Eagles have a bad secondary traditionally most of this week, and I really don't know how much I trust Stephon Diggs after the dud that they basically put up. I do think Houston will put up a great game, but I was scared because I didn't think that they had that floor that they showed last week. So I'm going with my tried and true T. Higgins.
Man. All right, so wide receiver matchup number 3. We have CeeDee Lamb taking on San Francisco's stout defense and Drake London going against Tampa Bay's defense. This one was tough. Tyler, who do you have?
I had to go CeeDee Lamb. I mean, number 1 wide receiver last season, Drake London. Yes, he performed great in this matchup. But Mike just said we don't think that they're going to be able to do this, have that same performance.
It's going to be interesting. I actually went with Drake London, thinking that maybe Falcons get off to an early lead, get a touchdown with Drake London, nice long pass. They'll run the rest of the game, but Drake London will still put up decent points.
Drake London is wide receiver 3 this year versus CeeDee Lamb number 1 last year. Drake London's been cooking this year, so I'm going to go Drake London.
I like the logic there, Mike. Tight end matchup, we got Hunter Henry taking on New York Jets stout defense and Pat Freiermuth taking on my New York Giants. Who do we have?
Hunter Henry is the number 1 read for Drake May. Difficult matchup for May, don't get me wrong. But I think this is going with Hunter Henry.
I'm going to do the same. Hunter Henry.
I'm going with Pat Fryermuth. I think that there's a good chance that he gets a little more involved in the passing game now that Russell Wilson's knocking off some of the rust. And I like Fryermuth, you know?
Yeah, well, that is our Week 8 Duel of the Fools. Just to recap before we end, unfortunately, Jordan is in the lead with both 29 correct guesses and 5 weeks won in first place. In second place with a commanding lead over correct guesses, it's me and with 25, 2 weeks won. And in last, no surprise there, it is Mike with 21 correct guesses and 2 weeks won. So, Mike, you're not too far behind in weeks won, but you are way behind on picks. That'll do it for episode 41. Thank you for listening, and give us a like, follow, and subscribe. We will see you next week, fools. Enjoy week 8 of the National Football League. See you, fools.